So, again, this is Industry Conversations. This is the Power Tour. We're here with Marc Cooper. Do you like Marc Cooper or Mr. Cooper, or how do you like it?
Actually, my name is Dr. Marc-Antonie Cooper.
Oh,
my first name is Marc-Antonie, but you can call me Marc. That's fine.
Well, I totally apologize, Dr. Marc-Antonie Cooper. Listen, you've been someone that we've just been able to keep an eye on. We've heard some great things about some of the projects that you participated on in different cities and different municipalities. We were directed to you by one of our experts and just wanted to make sure that we caught up with you to hear not only your story, but also to hear some of the financial efforts that you've witnessed, whether it's in your own seat or something that your seat has allowed you to witness. So we just want to start by introducing you to our audience, having a very candid conversation, just kind of telling where you're from and kind of how you got to the position and some of the jobs that you've held, that and any type of things that might have got you where you are today.
Okay. Born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. One of the great things about being raised in Detroit throughout the years is Detroit teaches you how to survive. And you know how to survive, you know how to make it. As they say, people always say in New York, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. No, really, if you're born and raised in Detroit, you can make it anywhere. Detroit is for survivors. So my career started with the Detroit Police Department. I worked the gang squad unit, the special crimes section unit. And I've been in government for multiple years. I had a small stint in private industry. But one of the things that really attracted me to government is just helping people. You know, I like helping people. I like being on the front end. And I've had people talk about, oh man, you like government, go to Washington. Local government is where you can truly impact people the most. So that's one of the reasons why I stayed there. So from Detroit Police Department, I relocated to Atlanta. Started with the banking industry. I was working in finance for several years. So I got back into government with the city of Atlanta. Worked my way up from fleet to director in the water department from city of Atlanta. Went to the state of Georgia, where I was the director of operations for the state health benefit plan. I ran a $3 billion state plan of all state employees and teachers.
Wow.
Went back to the city of Atlanta. I had 2 stints with the city. Was able to work with some great leaders in that time. I worked directly with Mayor Shirley Franklin of the city of Atlanta, who I respect a lot. Mayor Kasim Reed, who I respect a lot. Went back to Detroit, working with Mayor Duggan of the city of Detroit, and my former boss from the police department, who was the CEO of the water department there. From there, I went to Florida.
Wow.
So one thing about it is I have moved around, and I ended up back where I really wanted to be, and that's right here in Atlanta.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about what some of those, I guess, misnomers, or what some of those things that people don't recognize when it comes to city budgets, because and plans and how projects get rolled out. A lot of times you hear about it, you see about it on the news, but then you hear about different budget crises or different scenarios. Kind of just give some insight to us about how that affects the individual or the average resident sometimes.
So one of the things I think is important that many residents do, especially on the local level, is understand government in its entirety. We all pay taxes. One thing we can't get away from is paying taxes. So, we all pay taxes. But when you look at a municipal government, a lot of times residents don't understand your tax dollars that go into this pool of money for us to do major projects throughout the city. It's not unlimited. It's not an unlimited pot. You can't raise taxes infinitely to just say, hey, we want to get another $40 million. Let's raise taxes to get $40 million. Doesn't work that way. But you have a lot of different revenue streams. that come into the city. Just like in private industry and your personal life, you want to have multiple revenue streams. So the city, local governments have multiple revenue streams. They'll have enterprise funds, which are things like water utilities and electric utilities. You have some cities that run those. You'll have them running things such as sanitation, things. And those enterprise funds, a lot of people think that, oh, well, that's where you get all this money from. Well, no, that's to basically support the operation there with the water utility. So your tax dollars that you actually pay can go into what we call the general fund and fund those other projects that we need done, such as your roads and potholes and all of those things, cutting the grass. People just don't understand that it's so complex in running a government, that you have to have these multiple revenue streams. And that's not only residential, but that's commercial, businesses, everything from the small mom and pop barbershop to the big Amazon warehouse you'll have. They all pay into a pool of taxes. They all pay their taxes. They all go into a pool. But these are all the different revenue streams. And then you talk about, monies that you get when you apply for federal funding and state funding and all these revenue sharing things to come into this big pot of money that the city has to operate from. But you have to do everything from cut the grass to pay every employee, the health benefits, the insurances, as well as, helping those that really need that help, when you are supplementing lower income and affordable housing and all those things. So it's never enough money to go around. So you have to set those priorities so everybody can get a piece of the pie, but you have to set those priorities. You have to be strategic in what you want to do to make those accomplishments happen.
Okay. Listen, that was some great insight. It was one question that came to mind while you were just responding, and it's sometimes interesting how you can have residents complain, mm-hmm. but there's an opportunity to participate and engage and also support the activity of the municipality. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, sometimes when we complain or we're not able to, like you said, understand government and understand how to approach government to either support, help, or to even give insight as to what's taking place in your own backyard. Mm-hmm. Kind of give our listeners and just the general public some type of idea of how beneficial it is when you have engaged citizens that are coming in a positive form and understand not necessarily how all the dollars move, but ultimately how their behaviors actually impact their dollars at home.
Right. Well, an engaged citizenry, as they call it, is crucial to all forms of government. You will have a structure where you'll have a municipality that has over 100,000 registered voters. But when it comes down to voting in your local election for your mayor, your council people, your aldermans, whatever, commissioners, whatever you call them in that local level, you'll have 100,000 people eligible to vote, but you only have 10,000 that'll show up to the polls. And when you have that 10,000 show up to the polls, basically they're making a decision. You got 10% of your population making a decision for 100%. And it is important that we as the residents, we as a people engage in our civic activity and put our elected officials to the test, put our government officials to the test and ask them, what are your priorities? I understand that everything can't get done. I understand that if it's me, I may want streetlights from here, let's go to Detroit because you and I both know about Detroit. I can say I want streetlights from one end of the Detroit River to the next. But financially, does it make sense? Is that a priority that you could say would be something that could be accomplished within the limited scope of what you have? Yeah. Some people might say, well, yeah, it is if we stop this. But again, you do understand it's not an unlimited pot. So that means if I'm going to do this, something else is going to have to give. Yeah. And then somebody else might have an issue with that. So it's very important that as a local resident, you get involved in your local elections more so. Your mayor affects you a lot more than the president does. Yeah. Every day.
Exactly.
And that to me is the election that you really would want people to turn out for.
Yeah.
Because your mayor, your council person, your local representative is the people that you go to say, hey, this is what I want to see in my neighborhood. This is what I want to see in my backyard. And, and again, when you have that 10% population, the other 90% really, you don't have anything to complain about because you had your opportunity to express your feelings in the vote. And I know some people say, oh, well, my vote don't count. Well, believe it or not, your vote counts. Regardless of how you feel about it, your vote counts. So, I always tell anyone, forget what you represent. Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. Who's going to represent the people? You go in, you want to vote for who you feel is going to represent the people, and then hold that representative accountable when they get into that office.
Now, one last question before I let you go. We know that now you're in the city of South Fulton. Mm-hmm. You got a chance to, right before the interview, give me a little insight as to the newness of this city and some of the things that you're doing. Kind of just share with us what's going on in the city of South Fulton and what kind of impact you're making right now with the listeners, so they know if they ever need someone to talk to about this type of expertise, who they should find on LinkedIn or something.
Well, right now I'm working with the city of South Fulton. I'm the assistant city manager or the deputy chief, executive officer, you could say, in the city. The city of South Fulton is it's a new city. It's about 6 years old. And just as with anything new, you have growing pains. And with those growing pains, working with my boss, who's the interim city manager, I don't know if I can mention her, but I will, Ms. Sharon Superdon, we both have made a commitment to come in to help them restructure, reset up the government to become more efficient and effective service providers. Because what the city is not a bank for people. It's not a revenue thing. It's a service. We deliver services. Whether it's your trash, whether it's your picking up trash or cutting the grass or, your water utility, whatever it is we're delivering, it's a service. So we're in the service industry, and we are trying to make sure that we have all the policies, procedures, everything in place, from the finances all the way down to the basic insurances needed to run the amphitheater. We're trying to do all of those things to help the city become more effective and more efficient in the service delivery for the residents. So
I did say one last question, but I meant two last questions. It's one more. We always like to leave our listeners with one resource or one person and mentor that you might have had, because mentorship and finding your own pathway and understanding how can you get to that next level. So if there's a resource for residents or citizens, or a resource for anyone that's working their way up the corporate ladder within the municipal or governmental sector, what's one of those things that they should, or atmospheres that they should find themselves in as they continue to grow?
To me, if you want to be in government and you want to move up in government, you have to look at those who have aspired in government. Although, he's passed on and everything else, Mayor Coleman Young, city of Detroit, that's somebody I looked up to. I actually had an opportunity to meet him several times and speak to him and ask advice on things. To others, to your local council person, to as again, even your teacher. Jeanette Wheatley was my principal at Castech High School in Detroit. That was a big influence on me. So to me, if you're going to, whatever you do, a lot of times you don't get to meet these people. They're so far away. You think that, I never get to meet them, but that's okay. Just watch what they do. And the thing is none of them are perfect. None of us are perfect. So I've worked for some great people. I've worked for some people that I would never work for again in my life. But what I've done is I've learned from all.
Yeah.
I've learned either what to do or what not to do. And, and when you do that, you set yourself up to move in such a way that you earn your respect, you maintain your integrity, and you keep yourself above the fray, or above the rigmarole of what others want to do. You do everything you can to stay above that, and you're gonna be okay. You'll be okay. Don't fear change. Change is inevitable. Not all change is good, but change is inevitable, and don't fear it, because everything you want is right on the other side of fear. So if you can conquer that, I think you'll be okay.
Well, we appreciate you for having this candid conversation with us, Dr. Cooper. We thank you for all the impact and everything that you continue to do in multiple markets, multiple cities. And we're going to continue to lift you up as we continue to travel around this nation and just spreading messages like yours to make sure that people understand what it really takes, no matter what industry or wherever you find yourself. So again, we thank you for stopping by.
Appreciate you. Take care.